Welcome students. Today we are going to talk about the fundamental unit of life. Now if I tell you that the fundamental unit of life is cell, so you will ask, or one question will come into your head, exactly what a cell is, right? So let's dive deeper into the knowledge of cells. Okay. So what exactly a cell is? Before starting that, let's imagine that you need a lot of, okay, let's talk about if you're cooking something, okay, or if you're painting, or, if you're gardening. So you need your, painting tools to paint, right? Then you need your gardening tools maybe to use it in, garden, for gardening, I can write. Similarly, in kitchen, you use several utensils, you use raw material to cook something good, right? Now, all this comes from, all this combined together to make something. Similarly, if a human organism is there, okay, or not human organism, any organism is there, example human, you can say. So how does it, or what does it made up of? It is made up of the raw materials, you can say cells. Okay, these cells actually combine together in many numbers, many forms, many shapes to give you one complete organism, you can say something like this. Yeah. Okay, so it gives you one complete organism. Okay, now just what's, yeah, okay, let me just erase this. So the cell is actually the structural and functional unit of life. What do we mean by that? That means that it provides structure, okay, to an organism and also the functions to it. So for example, your body can, it has its own circulatory system, it has its own, respiratory system, digestive system. All these systems work together in a coordinated manner to keep an organism living, okay? So all these functions, actually how it is being performed, it is done inside or with the help of a cell. So if a cell is not there, or if it is not existing, functioning of a living organism will become difficult or impossible almost, you can say, okay? So everything around us, any plant, animal, fungi, or even bacteria is made up of cell. Every organism, living organism, which you can imagine, is made up of cells, okay? Now, let me just, okay. So some organisms consist just one cell. Okay, like I told you, cell is the functional unit. That means one cell, even one cell can perform, respiration, then digestion, digestion, right? All these functions which a normal human being or an organism performs, okay? And even some organisms can have trillions of cells together, combining together to make tissues, organ system, and hence whole complete organism, okay? So just let me move ahead. Yeah, so Robert Hooke, in 1665, what he did, he took actually the cork, a thin slice of a cork. What exactly a cork is? So earlier, this wine cellar bottles, they used to have, the cork, the lid as cork here. Okay, now this cork, he took, it is usually made up of wood. And he took a thin slice of it. Okay, and what he found this box-like structure. Okay, the arrangement was like little boxes were there, tiny boxes. So he called them cells. Okay, and these boxes actually reminded him of monk's room, which used to look like a room. The cells used to look like monk's room, and that's why he called it, you can say, a cell. Now, he published this finding of his about the thin slices, about the cell, in his book called as Micrographia. Okay. So, who discovered cell? Robert Hooke. From where does it was discovered? From the cork of a bottle, from the thin slice of a cork of a bottle, by his own self-designed designed microscope. Okay. And also, he called it or he named it cell. It was on the basis of that monks' rooms used to look like what a cell looked like. Okay, and also he published his findings in this book. Okay, so now moving ahead. Now another you can say scientist, or you can say biologist came into picture, Antony van Leeuwenhoek. What he did was he discovered living cell for the first time. So who discovered dead cell? Robert Hooke. Who discovered living cell? Sorry, this would be cell. Let me just erase it. So who discovered living cell? It was Antony van Leeuwenhoek, or you can say A.B. Leeuwenhoek. Okay, we can write complete. Okay, so first to see the living cell, and he called it animalcules. Okay, animalcules. That means tiny animals, because they were performing all the functions. They were living, they were moving, right? So animalcules, little animals, tiny animals, right? In the pond water, saliva, and other samples he took. Okay, and his microscopes could, almost magnify things up to 270 times. So he was able to observe a living cell. Okay, that's what his discovery was about. So now after this, there comes a cell theory in picture. How does it come, or what it actually talks about? Basically, it talks about that all the plant tissues or all the, animal tissues are made up of nothing, but you can say both these things are made up of cells. So there were two scientists. Again, this theory we will discuss in depth. Okay. So they discovered, they came up to this theory where they talked about how different living organisms are made up of cells. Okay. And yeah, that we'll see later. So the scientists were Schleiden and Schwann. Okay. The pronunciation would be Schwann. Schleiden, Matthias Schleiden, and Theodor Schwann. Now, we'll talk about the cell theory later, maybe in our, next to next class. Okay. So, then comes another, person in picture, you can say, Rudolf Virchow. Okay. Rudolf Virchow. Okay. He said, omnicellular e-cellular. What do you mean by this exact sentence? So we always, talk about that, whether a hen came first, or egg, or an egg. Okay, we always talk about that. So what came first? Whether an organism, its mother came first, or a cell. Okay, a zygote. So you would be confused, right? You will be you won't be sure what exactly the answer to that would be. So he came to the answer to such a question, that all cells arise from pre-existing cells. That means one cell is there and it's dividing to form two. Then other two cells again divide to form four more cells altogether. Right? So this was his contribution. It was a big contribution. Okay, and it helped us later to understand the growth, development, and reproduction in all the organism. That how does it occur? What is cell division? Right? How the sperm is being formed, and how the egg is being formed, and how the zygote is made. Everything you can understand by this theory itself. So all these scientists, their theories were combined together to make cell theory. That you will see later in your other sessions. Okay. So what was the timeline for discovery of cell? So first, Robert Hooke discovered the cell in the cock. That was dead cell. Okay, don't forget that, because question could be very specific. They can ask you about dead cell or maybe living cell, so don't get confused. So this was done in 1665. After that, in 1674, Antony van Leeuwenhoek discovered or observed living cells. Okay, mostly he did it in rainwater. Okay, to be precise, firstly he did it in rainwater, and gradually he observed other samples as well. Now in 1838, Matthias Schleiden concluded that plants are made up of cells, and Schwann concluded, Theodor Schwann, in just after 1 year after that. But their observations were different from, or you can say separate observations they made. Okay, they were not working together, but these were combined together later. Okay, so 1839 he determined that animals are made up of cell, and Rudolf Virchow later gave how exactly a cell came into picture. Sorry, 1855. Okay, so this is the timeline right? Okay. So whatever we have studied so far is all living cells are composed of, living organisms are composed of cell. Okay. Then we got to know that cells are the basic structural and functional unit of life. That means the structure to any organism and the function is given by nothing but a cell. Okay. Now all cells arise from pre-existing, and later these three summaries or this three pointers which we are studying right now or talking about, this came to become the cell theory. So in cell theory topic also we will again see this. Okay, so few fun facts would be that around human body, if we talk about how many cells are there, around 37 trillion. So in numbers, if you want to see 37 triple zero triple zero triple zero and triple zero, there's many times of cells are there in a human body, and they work together, coordinate together to perform different functions. Okay, now if we talk about smallest cell, so smallest cells are like mostly from bacteria. If you'll see, it is less than 1 micrometer. Okay, it is around 0.2 micrometer, the smallest one. And the largest one would be around 15 centimeter, and that is the ostrich egg or egg of an ostrich. Okay, so this is all about it. Most cells are invisible to our naked eyes, but some of it we can see. Okay, the large ones. Now try answering the questions now. I hope you have understood the session. So just let's quickly see whether you understood it or not. Okay, so question 1 is, who coined the term cell and in what year? Okay, so he was studying about Hooke. So if you remember the dead cells about them, so you can name the scientist here. Now, who was the first scientist to observe living cells? Okay, he called them animal cues. So again, you can answer this. And last is, what are the three main principles of the cell theory? So this, again, if you can't answer the question, third question, we'll talk about it in our third session of this, chapter, you can say. Okay, so this is all we have learned. And thank you so much for contacting me or watching this video. And you can contact me through my Urban Pro profile for any kind of doubt you are having. Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye. Take care.